Friday, everybody. So here we are. We have a special guest with us today. It's Trevor Bruintjes. Trevor's a business coach out in Vancouver, British Columbia, correct, Trevor?
Oh, well, I'm not quite in Vancouver, but British Columbia. I
Oh,
live in the quintessential postcard up in northern British Columbia, but same thing.
quintessential postcard.
Oh yeah.
So welcome, Trevor. And we're going to have an interesting conversation today. We're talking about employee retention, which is that sounds boring, but it's an interesting thing. My experience with this was, so when I got into contracting 7 years ago, I came from a different industry, and I did not understand this. I did not understand this at all. And so the model we were using for retention, and I'm going to use that
pizza
really
parties?
really loosely. Well, no, not pizza parties. So the owner's model was pay as little as as little as you can get away with, and then like people would chirp and be like, I need it, I haven't gotten a pay raise in X amount period of time. They would chirp, and then he would give them some ridiculous raise. I mean, like, my eyes would roll back, my head. So I had the privilege of observing that and seeing that it wasn't very good. And, the other thing that was the other part about it is we'd have one, you'd have one guy that was, let's say, one of the top, say, 25%, right? One of the top 20, a good performer, good producer, good work, et cetera, showed up, all that good stuff. And then there'd be someone that did not, right? Didn't do as well as them, but that person would be making like $3 or $4 more an hour. Right. And then we had a couple of guys, like every business, there were a couple of guys that were, the guys that got shit done that we would lean on real heavy for like the big jobs we got, and they delivered. And then those guys would randomly get a bonus, So it was, coming from a much more corporate background for me at that time, it drove me crazy. I was like, this is nuts. Right. So, and it was, because, within a few years, I'm running the company's largest jobs. So these are commercial jobs with multiple subcontractors, owners that have a lot of money and are spending a lot of money. And so there's a lot of expectation, and, things got real crazy. And, that sort of like, that disparity between, the guys, because I remember there was a guy that was going to retire, and I'm not going to say any names, obviously. And he was really solid. He delivered. He wasn't fast anymore, but his work was really good quality. And he was, he was making like $3, $4, I think it was $5 an hour more than other guys that were out producing him, both in total like quantity of work, dollars and cents wise. And I was like, this is crazy. So my solution to that was we systematized it, right? So like in my third or fourth year, I went to the owner. I was like, look, we have to do this on a schedule, right? Because people don't like the uncertainty. They don't know when they're going to get a raise, and it doesn't feel like it's tied to their performance. So I basically built a performance-based system, built a base, very, very rough, like a range, et cetera, of like ranges for laborers, and there's a couple types of those. And then for like sort of like the younger masons, and then like the senior guys and the foremen, which are the senior masons, and they're running big work and everything else. And then we have implemented a compensation, like, incentive plan, which I say, and I'm curious to hear what your feedback is on this, Trevor, because I did a profit share based on jobs. So I built a metric for how jobs should perform, and then we carved out a fixed percent, and that went to the field to this person that sold it, ran it, and then to the admins in the office, it was equal parts, you know, a fixed amount of that pool basically. So each job that performed got a bonus pool. And I'm sure there were about 20 ways I didn't do that right, and it was expensive, but that was the best hire I never had to make, because we had great people. I mean, great people, but they, like the guys, especially like the top 25%, stepped up. And I was like, I mean, I believed in it. Obviously, that's why I rolled it out, but I could not believe the absolute, like the contrast from pre-profit share program, you know, to post. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. And it was also like a really interesting insight into, you know, who was really delivering, because we were paying a lot more attention to jobs. So we're going to spend, you know, hopefully it gets us started here and we can have a conversation about this, Trevor, because, you know, we've got almost 300 people, right, Jay? I mean,
yep.
We're right at 300 contractors in our two groups, between the Facebook group, which is most of them, and the LinkedIn group. And so folks are, you know, they're here because they want solutions. They want, you know, help for stuff like this. And I know that's how Jay and I met, which I'm not going to get into the genesis of our relationship, but I was looking for someone that had done this, you know, like someone that had run these plays and done it well, because, you know, I'm willing to do stuff trial by fire, but trial by fire is expensive. You know?
I can't help myself. I have to jump in and tell you the story of, again, we were talking about the profit share. I think I shared it with you a few times, but for 10 years in my business, I wanted to gamify my labor. I wanted to gamify and build a culture around gamification, because in my business, you can be a subcontractor where the quality went down. You know, they weren't as stable. You risk losing them to competitors. Same with your staff. But no matter what, I could not get the production, but I'd get quality out of my internal staff. So I had this constant problem of back and forth. So when I introduced the first, and this is what not to do, when I first introduced profit share, right? Great. I did an announcement and everything else. But I failed to really understand what that meant to most people. So a bonus or profit share. And we seen probably, well, I'll tell you, it was the biggest mutiny I ever had. Literally like the worst rollout of all time. And it became just like basically bribery to get things done. And it was absolutely nightmare. One thing I learned from all of that, and in relaunching it another 2 times to fail at it, is that it is complex. Like, don't try and do it if you don't know your numbers internally. And the other way to look at it is when you gamify something, most of us are going out, and what we're not doing the basic things. We're not doing the things that really matter. For example, I mean, if you're not keeping score, all right, and you're sending your staff every day to a job site and saying, hey, just do work, all right, but you don't tell them, hey, you know, here's the hours you have to do. Here's the, you know, here's the budget we expect it to be in. Here's the guidelines. Here's the play for the job. Here's the scope of work. Hey, here's a work order even. Like, how many guys are just sending guys to job sites? Don't think profit share until you can master those things first. All right.
Agreed.
The other thing is, if you're not doing qualitative and measurable performance evaluations, don't even think about, don't let those words slip off your tongue. Okay. You do not say profit. You do not say bonus. Those are bad words. You say nothing. You get these things in place and you learn how to evaluate your staff on a day-to-day basis, monitor, you know, absentees, all these things. You make sure you can measure these things, because when it comes time and you open your mouth and you say that, you best damn be prepared to follow through with it. And on top of that, again, if there isn't a bulletproof system, okay, and this is discipline, and for most contractors, again, this will create more problems than good. It is absolutely 100% got ROI to it. I mean, again, you know, I can't say enough good things about having it in place and what it's done. I basically get subcontractors that have quality, like subcontractor speed. You know, we we treat our clients, and we generate more business from it. Like, it's got a huge marketing aspect to it as well. And you guys are motivated. Turnover is much lower. But again, it's not easy to do. So I would say that's like a level 3, like, that should be your 1-year goal if you want to be ambitious. But let's talk about some of the simpler things that you can do right now that will make a significant difference. So, I mean, again, sitting down with your staff and having regular, like, meetings. I call them stay interviews, right? Where you just one-to-one have those conversations, or the manager has a conversation depending on how you're set up, but asking them, the important questions, and having this systemized to get back feedback, having those things, and not being reactive to everything they say, but like,
I was gonna say Jay's making a good point.
Yeah.
It totally
Go ahead,
doesn't have
Trevor.
to be complicated. Yeah, no problem, bud.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. So Jay's making a good point, and that I didn't start there. I just kind of jumped ahead to the thing. So so for and I didn't have the same disastrous experience, but I also did make mistakes, which I'm not going to get into right now. So if you're so help our folks, like, okay, so if they're starting, which, and a lot of people are where Jay was and where I was, like, they want, they're not greedy. Like, they want to share, like, they want to see their people do well. They care about their staff. They care about, their experience, their future, etc. They don't know where to start. So for someone who's got a good business, they've got good people, and they just don't, like, they want to do something, where do they start? And Jay made a good point about evaluation. So, where would you start somebody off?
I mean, money is just one part of the retention, and it's actually lower on the retention.
Much lower.
Much lower. Yes, we can simplify how we pay and come up with a system that creates an environment where it has fairness to it. And I think that when it comes to money, that's what we're talking about, is that we're looking for, fairness and no disparity in wages. But there's so much more to retention.
Oh, massive. Yeah.
Why do people change? It's when they get dissatisfied with the current situation, and they have that vision of what could be a better spot for them, and then they take that first step, send out that resume. That's when change happens. And if we can disrupt that change and keep those things at bay, and that's through regular meetings with your employees, all of these things, you'll end up with better retention if you can disrupt that change formula.
What's interesting about it, if contractors looked at their hiring, recruiting, retention systems the same way they looked at marketing and sales and retaining clients there, they would discover some amazing things. Are you consistently selling and trying to retain your staff? Again, we get into this and we treat it like a relationship sometimes, where we've got them in and we just assume they're there for the long haul and that they're going to be loyal to us, but we do nothing to, we don't take them on dates. We don't try to reach out to them. We don't practice, and this is probably going to be, contractors will be like, what? But we don't practice empathy. And I don't mean empathy meaning let people get away with murder, but just listening to them, just hearing out what they have to say, but systemizing it. It can't be, an out of control thing. Will retain your staff considerably more than just slamming on more raises. All right. Let's think about the pathway that you provide. All right. Let's think about the mission or the vision that you give. Now, I'll just state for the record, I don't believe in traditional mission statements that you write and then put into a, in a picture frame and hang on the wall. I believe missions are something that if you have with each and every one of your staff, you're giving them a mission for themselves and their pathway through your business. All right. We call this in our business, we call it a tour of duty. All right. What's the tour of duty? What's their mission between the first review call and the next review call? All right. Getting clarity around that, giving them a purpose and a place to have impact in the business and contribute. That will exponentially get you better results. If you're going to add gamification, so again, we come back down to the measurement. Make it simple, make it easy. Like, again, what are we looking for here? What would make the difference for the company? And don't think these huge, massive changes, because it won't happen. Think small things, right? Like if somebody's missed a lot of time in that quarter, what we talk to them about is, hey, you know what? I seen you missed a lot of. First of all, I'm going to listen to you of why. Like maybe you had death in the family, all these kind of things. So I'm gonna truly listen to that. But then I'm going to make it part of our mission for the next 3 months that you reduce that by 15%. So next time we talk, it's going to be a black and white conversation of, did you do it? Yeah. Okay, great. I can tell by how many missions you've completed for me, whether or not, you're on my team or on my side, right?
Yeah.
If we start seeing that lack of engagement, and I think this is a big thing that a lot of contractors miss, is engagement isn't just, seeing them on a job site and saying hello. Like in getting them to engage and believe in the values, the core values that you carry as a business. That's where you start to put yourself in the top 10% of, amazing employers. And again, if you're looking at it from an ROI perspective, there's no better place to invest, because I look at it this way, right? Like, if we're looking at dollars and cents, very rarely are you going to get 100% return on any business, any business you're going to transpire. You will get 400 to 500% on a good employee versus a bad one. Okay. Yeah. So if we're looking at it that way, why would we not put time, effort, energy into doing it? And I think for the most part, contractors are disadvantaged for one reason. When I came into the trades, I'm sure like you came into the trades and everybody else is, there was no onboarding. There was no company culture. There was no, we were all brought up in the trades and it was shut up and work. And if you don't work, I'm going to throw this hatchet at you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, or we're just going to leave you on the job site. Like, again, there's a culture that's developed. And if we take some lessons from, tech and all these things, they started onboard, McDonald's onboards. Right? Let's be honest. Why can McDonald's retain staff at such a low minimum wage rate? But then we come to the trades and we're paying exponentially more and it continues to inflate, right? And you really got to look at what's missing from this recipe that we've all been running. And I'll tell you, it's that it's not different. There's no differentiation. There's no, if they're looking at one business to the next, there's nothing that differentiates the employers and how they treat them. Now you can, and I see a lot of guys do this, they promote this wicked culture and all these things that are going on. That's in their head. That's their vision of their team. You go talk to their team and they're going to tell you a wildly different story. And that's the disconnect we have. And the way to improve it is, if you're already operating a business, don't try to make massive changes. I've done this. It fails every time. You make simple changes, and it's you, the owner or the manager, that needs to change first to get the changes back. And this is a process you have to move through. If you've already let things get sort of off the wheels, start with, hey, anybody I'm going to bring into my business is going to get onboarded. We're going to plan out their journey. And it takes, once it's up, guys, it takes so much less work. What's one meeting every 3 months, right? What's, a daily work report that, gives you fair and honest data about the performance of that staff, right? What's it worth to you to be proactive rather than reactive when you can see someone actively struggling in your business, whether it be, callbacks or, all these very obvious things when you track them. If you step in and start a conversation and show some empathy towards what's happening, you're going to turn that staff from, they're going to remember that for a very long time. And that's what creates retention, right? It's not just the money. Cause I'll tell you, in my earlier days, I went out of my way to pay guys more and more and more. Whenever there was a problem, that's how I handled it. I don't want you to quit, so I'll just pay you more money. That fails every time. Because now you get into it's almost like you're being blackmailed at a certain point, and you've set the groundwork for that to happen, right? Oh, the attitude becomes, he needs me more than I need them, right?
Yeah, to your point, Jay, about empathy, I think, again, speaking to the folks out there that are watching us right now, because got a few folks I can see that are watching us and are live with us, but also and then to anybody watching this in replay, if this system stuff is overwhelming, which it is to most people, and that's okay, because that's normal. But if it is, here's where I started. Because I made the substantial mistake of not alienating not just the top guy, but the top two guys in the business that were doing the most work and delivering the best results. Because I was stupid, just a lot of ego. And like one of our top two guys, I met him on a job site. He was up in a lift, and he had just come back from an injury, and he had a saw going. There's dust flying, and he has no hard hat, and there's another lift up, and I'm like, this guy was like almost lost his life, and I'm freaking out. So I'm screaming at him, right? This is the first time I meet him. I'm screaming at him, and needless to say, he wasn't a fan of mine for about a year and a half. And then our other top guy, same thing. Like, I crossed him, and he was fucking pissed at me for probably 2 years, actually. And I had to go to both those guys and apologize. And I was like, I'm really sorry. And, and I basically just ate crow. I was like, I was wrong. I fucked up. Like, granted, and because we didn't, it wasn't the guy that, about the safety thing. We didn't have a safety culture. We weren't, we were literally the worst at that time. And so those guys ended up being like my top two people, and they brought in 3/4 of our work. And they, like, I would go to them. They were my leaders. I would go to them and get their buy-in first and get their feedback before I would roll stuff out. And they they saved me a lot of time, a lot of heartache, and a lot of money by being like, basically like, I would be like, filter things to them. Like, what do you think about this? And they would be like, they'd be like, oh, that sucks. Or, oh no, that's great. Or can we do this? But it started with me going to them and being like, I screwed up. I'm sorry. Like, I should, I was way out of line here. I was way out of line there. And that was, that kind of forged, then took us forward. And then, when I showed up, cause they would run the biggest jobs for me. When I showed up on site, like, they were putting their fist out to me, like to fist pump me. And that was like, I saw like, oh, this is what a good culture looks like, when people don't turn the other way when their boss walks on the side or walks in the room, but they actually wanted to see me, wanted to, work with me. And I learned, obviously, but it started with meeting crow, because I had to say, look, I fucked up. I'm sorry. And I would do that regularly, because I make a lot of mistakes.
Well, but listen,
like, whenever I would blow it, I would say to my whole team, like, you know what, I fucked this, and I'm really sorry. Like, but here's how I think we can fix it, and let's go forward.
Here's one thing that I've learned, that I say in every situation where I am in a leadership role, and I say it honestly, and it seems to disarm a lot of these egos and stuff like that. It's like, listen, I'm not always going to be right? Because everyone assumes you're going to be right. My job's actually not to be right. It's to get it right. And when you start to put yourself in that position with your team, you get to lead them a lot more, rather than being perceived as the asshole boss and all these other things. And so again, when we talk about culture, when we talk about, like, these are big catchwords, I think, that get used a lot. And again, I know the pain and sorrow and the misery of really failing at this, but I also know how valuable it is when you do get it right. And again, I'm gonna say, and we got to let Trevor tune in on this one, because he's really strong in this area. But it's taking the small things and consistently doing them. Don't get caught up in what, having profit programs. Like, don't even think about those things. They develop as your business develops. They grow as you grow. The more you grow and the more you invest in taking care of people, because you genuinely, again, you see them as value, hiring properly, making sure they match the role you've hired them for. Like, those are favors you can do and you can implement very easily, that are going to make a big change. Like, again, I don't care how much culture, how many systems you have. I don't care about any of that. If you've hired the wrong people for the wrong role, game over. It does not matter. Yeah. And if you aren't a leader enough yet to know when somebody isn't a fit and make that call, and I see this all the time. Oh, well, I can't find guys. I have to use this guy. That is, I see companies almost go damn near bankrupt over one person. All right. And I've had it happen to me. I've experienced it. And these are the things that matter at the end of the day. The ones that are going to get you real results is think about those things. Think about the small things. I'll give you some quick wins where we'll let Trevor chime in on this one.
Well,
I want to.
Hey, hold on.
I'm the Gen Xer. I'm the old guy
Mm.
in the room, right? And I can just see so many of those older owners rolling their eyes when you're talking about empathy and when you're talking about all of these things. It's not complicated. I know that there's a huge disconnect between the Zillennials, the millennials, and the Xers. And generally that's the demographic I'm coaching, and I'm glad that you say you don't have to make big steps to make big just little steps make big changes.
Yeah. Well, let's maybe touch on that for a second. So one thing that I know for sure, all right, and I'm kind of right in the middle. So I was trained by baby boomers and Gen Xers. So like, again, when I say like the shut up and work culture and like suck it up, be tough, all that stuff, I mean, I live that. That's how I got where I am. And a lot of me is trained on that. But one thing I knew kind of right up front is there's a reason. Okay. So if you look at the value system, the core value system of a baby boomer or a Gen Xer, it is essentially, if you work hard, you get somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Trade. All right. And I agree with that. And I believe in that. But when we get to millennials, we have to understand that there was a significant change that occurred. First of all, kids were told to go to school and to be in college and everything else. They've seen all these things not work out. And it put a lot of mistrust, right? Yeah. Again, look at just the switch, like how wildly we've moved as a culture towards nobody trusts anything. We're in the post-trust era. Okay. Now we take a millennial, all right, an older millennial like myself, like I'm sort of on both sides, and I'm going, okay. And believe me, it's done a 180, and nobody's really understanding that. They're looking at their staff going, well, I can't get this guy to work. He'll never work, blah, 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 because no, we have a difference in values. So the millennials down value like this: show me an opportunity and then I will work my ass off. All right. But you see the difference? One's not giving and the other's not giving. And again, it's a prime example of where the little changes can occur. So again, if you're a baby boomer Gen Xer and you're running a contracting business, know this: within the next 2 to 3 or 4 years, you don't get any options. So adapt or die, right? If you don't want to give an opportunity, then don't. Just choose to go out of business, and that's your choice, okay? Right. But I'm telling you, from my business, we don't have one person over the age of 35. And I would challenge anybody in the trades to really be able to, come up with that kind of number. Now we have, over 50 guys, and, all together, that's a very difficult transition that we had to make, because what I wanted to do is treat everyone the way I was treated, right? I just thought that was the system. That's how things are. That's how it's supposed to be. But very much quickly realized that, hey, you know what? When I do it like this, my younger guys just quit. Why are they always quitting? Right? Why is it I'm only retaining, Gen Xers and baby boomers? And like, again, as they start retiring and slowing down, like, where are you going to get your workforce from? So again, we had to have a mindset shift and really start to discover, okay, first off, it's not that they don't want to work. They will work, and I can prove it. Like, again, they're very productive. However, you need to do training. You need to have open communication. They're highly collaborative. Okay, they will work with you. So, give you an example: a millennial and down expect training. You ask a baby boomer to take training, no chance. Like, it's like pulling teeth. Gen Xer, same thing. I'm not doing training. I already know it. Like, so think about the opportunity there in that you can train somebody very thoroughly. And guess what that tells them? This is an opportunity for me. He's investing in me. He believes in me to work for him. So you start to put that confidence in them the opposite way that you were taught. So don't scream and yell and jump up and down and, the threaten death or anything like that, like most of us do, or just, watch what I do and do it. That doesn't work. We got to think about creative ways to actually get them involved and get them engaged, right? Engagement is the key to really mastering the millennial, and it groups down. And guys, it doesn't get easier, by the way. Like, You think every year that you're hiring younger, it gets more and more difficult, and we got less and less attention spans. But you've got to work out small changes, strategies that you can implement that are going to make a difference. I mean, again, we talked about, the bonus structures and stuff. We've talked about, kind of some surface level stuff. But again, culture really has to be looked at as, your vision of the culture is going to be significantly different if you don't think about and use your empathy to understand where and what they're experiencing. So again, that's just a rant, but
yeah,
well,
but
let me just tell you one little story. Sorry,
sure.
Adrian.
Yeah,
I made one little change 10 years ago in an HVAC company. The Gen Xers and the baby boomers were not allowed to yell at the apprentices.
Yeah.
I took yelling off the
smart.
this is not a thing. My retention of the young people, getting them through the apprenticeship program, 100%. And it was just one rule. Don't yell. They want to know, they want to learn. I had to educate those guys, but that one, no more yelling.
Right.
It fixed so much stuff, right?
So we again, I'm passionate about this particular topic because just 3 years ago, our retention of new staff members was about 9%. Okay, so but I retained any staff that stayed over 90 days. On average, we would keep for a 5 to 6 point year, like a very high, and our retention was really good. But I could not grow the business because I kept having the same problem. We were literally like a chain of guys, and I get the same excuses every time. So the first thing we did is we implemented a buddy system. So I took the most, and we trained our buddies on what exactly it was, and we incentivized them. So when a new guy came to the job site, he was the friendly guy. And again, we picked them on personality, like they were influencers or outgoing, and we stuck the new guy. Didn't matter their skill sets or anything. And his job every day, he had a 15-minute lesson to give, right, based on their role, and he was just their go-to person. All right, for the first 90 days. And it paid off huge because there's that period where you're uncomfortable and everybody goes through it, right? If you have someone there that's just getting you and is incentivized to get you through that process, you'll see your retention go up significantly higher. And guess what? Those 15-minute listens, the simplest stuff, guys, the simplest stuff that you overlook or overthink with a brand new hire. No one remembers what it's like coming into a job site. Again, we base it on a journey. We base it on an experience. And if you can get someone through those 90 days, even if they're bad, even if they're terrible, like haven't picked up a hammer before, you give that 90 days with that process and just giving them attention, it significantly improves in all areas. The other thing it does is it proves to the rest of your staff that you're serious about this stuff, right? That you actually care and that you're going to, safety. That's a prime example. What do you think for guys that are out there, old school, that they're not putting their ropes on, they're not, not doing the stuff they should be? That tells your new staff you don't care about them. And that they shouldn't be there because they don't want to work for a company that's, doesn't take their safety seriously. And that's the opposite of what? The baby boomers, you're a pussy if you didn't, like you're a pussy wearing that. Like I remember being told that, and I'm like, I don't want to die today. Well, pussy, like you know what I mean? Like, where's the common sense in this one? But it was part of the culture. And again, the other thing, like, simple little changes. What's it cost you for 15 minutes of the day and have to put somebody friendly that's going to meet and greet and just let your staff know that you've made a plan to get them onboarded and that you actually care. So many little things get worked out right there and then. And the misunderstandings and the sense of being uncomfortable. And again, our retention now as a result of those changes is, well over 90%. So we're not concerned, and we're bringing brand new apprentices that have never been on roofs before. And it's gone through the culture that we're, capable of doing that. We've got lots of very good examples of taking somebody that's never been on a roof before and turning them into amazing roofers, right? So that's, again, it's what's helping. It's not what's taking away from it. And again, those are, how hard can it be, right? How hard could it be for you to do even a little bit of that? Make sense?
Clear paths, clear career
yes
path.
Right. All right, well, let's talk a little bit. Obviously I've got my I'm always going to bring it back to the AI, my passion here for it. So many of you guys are probably asking me, well, how does AI come into retention? And let me tell you, I am a believer. Okay, so first things first, we started to implement surveys. Okay, surveys that are unique to a individual's experience. All right, so we're surveying at critical points. So we survey all of our staff on, so we can get a data-driven process in place of knowing what, what the satisfaction level is. And guess what? Guess what we discovered? And actually, we didn't discover, by pulling in all that data, all right, putting it in a spreadsheet and letting AI analyze it, it comes up with a whole bunch of solutions to your problems. All right. So for example, if you have low productivity, did you know that that's tied directly to how many apprentices that you have on a crew? It's also a result of contact with your crews. So how many times a foreman or a superintendent are out physically on the job sites. The other thing that was contributing that again, you would think that we would know it after all these years, but until we actually used an AI to analyze, absenteeism always tended to be based on one person's actions during the week. So I'll give you a good example. We have a crew leader that tended to have moments, we'll call them, and was negatively impacting the crew on Tuesday. And lo and behold, on Wednesday and Thursday, we had the highest absenteeism of the day. Interesting. The other thing we noticed is that when they worked more than an 8-hour shift, all right, so we're talking 10 or 11 hours, that absenteeism went up 33% throughout the week. So what was the point in going over that and pushing on hours? It wasn't. And in our situation, again, we actually we implemented the 4-day work week, which made a significant impact, and it lowered our production zero impact. So again, would we have maybe not found those insights? Probably not. Again, data is a really interesting thing, and when you have massive amounts of it, using an AI is like the only way now you're going to get the answers. Because again, people are trained on this, but you can use AI to actually analyze those trends or those patterns. There's other really good ways. Compensation. So now you can actually use AI to analyze the market value of a staff. You don't know what they should be paid. You can use prompts and you can have their pay compensation analyzed. Big one for you guys talking about incentive programs and stuff. I've got prompts, happy to share them with you, where they will build it based on your company's values, their core values. What should you be incentivizing on? Where should bonuses be added? And again, I'm a pretty creative guy and I come up with lots of ideas, but this is going to really help you kind of expand on those ideas. And then bonus plans, prompts. Okay. This is something I had to find out the very hard way, is that's a lot of accounting. There's a lot of numbers, and most of you guys can't even do job costings. Where do you think it's going to come time when you have to build this bonus plan and who's in, who's out? Just think of the manual amount of data that you have to keep. Even if you get it set up in a spreadsheet, it's still messy and it takes time. I use AI now to, in 2 seconds, analyze and give me my bonus structure for my staff, which has been, again, very, very helpful. And then in terms of your mentorship programs, right? Maybe you're at that stage in your business where if you want to really take your retention to the next level, you're going to actually have mentors. So mentors would be somebody that maybe is a supervisor, somebody that is the avatar for your business, that's going to mentor other staff that are looking to fill that position. Is looking to, like, what are the steps, what are the pathways? So think about like internal coaches that are actually going to help staff move up the ladder in your side of your business. Again, this might be far off for some, but it's very important. And then the last place, like I said from the beginning, most companies hire a warm body for a role and hope it works out. I've stopped doing that many years ago, and I use behavioral analysis and like behavioral based questions in the interview process. And guess what? AI can analyze all that for you. So whether you know it, you can take the transcript of that interview and it will give you an analysis that's not your own, because you can be blinded. And the interview, that's always a problem, is where you get a bias towards who you're hiring. If they're like you, for example, you might have a bias, a hiring bias, that is holding your business back from hiring the right people. And I put it to you like this: just like your customers, one of the first things you kind of discover as a business owner as you scale is that you probably won't sell to the people that are like you. Me, I am the opposite. I would not make it through my screening process. I would not qualify. My business would not qualify me to sell work to, because I knew I would waste my time. I am a cheap, price sensitive bastard that, like, I will still do things on my own. I can't help it. All right. But the same thing for staff. All right. The same rules apply whether you realize it or not. And again, when you think about the role and the type of personality that would fit that role, okay, you're going to find out very, very quickly that this is a pattern, and we can, put a measurement to it, right? For example, I'm a commander. I have a commander type personality. If I put myself with another commander, we're going to have sparks. We're going to have problems, right? If I put myself with a defender, that's going to be very good. Here's only about 3 or 4 personalities that I could work directly with on a day-to-day basis, right? And now when they're coming through the interviews, guess what I get to analyze? I get to use my AI to run those processes and basically scorecard these applicants coming through, saying, hey, you know what? This one fits this personality type. This will work well on this crew. This will work well on this crew, based on, actual real math and real science behind it.
Yep.
So Jay,
hold on.
Yeah, the CIA or the FBI, I think we need one of all 4 boxes to create the most productive team.
Absolutely.
And I use AI to go one step further. You can actually target a defender in how you write your job ad.
Absolutely, you can.
You only attract defenders.
100%.
At the beginning of the process.
Absolutely. And again, I think we chatted a bit about the copy and stuff that you can write. When we're writing job ads, like, guys that are out there, the game has changed a lot. Before, you would need to hire at minimum a $5,000 copyright that was worth a salt, that could actually take that information and write it to speak to the right one. Now, I look at ads, and here's another use for AI. You can analyze your competitors' ads and see who they're targeting, right? So when I did it for my competitors, I found out they were targeting nobody. There was no specific, and I'm looking through other ads and going, even large companies that should know this stuff, they don't. Nope. And these ads are so wide and broad that they speak to nobody, right? So again, I've been writing ads specifically to certain avatars for a very long time, and we have several ad sets depending on the role. All right, I assumed everyone else was doing it. And if you want a real edge, the difference in performance on these ads compared to, a one that's broadly based could be 100 or 200%. Imagine that, putting out an ad where you get 200% more responses by the exact person you're looking for. Now, does that pay the bills or what? Right? For all of you guys out there thinking about, well, why can't I find the right guys? Well, let's look at it again from a marketing perspective. Ironic, it continues to come up. In my opinion, I'll always share it, but marketing and sales is the same as recruitment and hiring. If you apply the same things and you think the same way, like, you want to go out and say to your clients, hey, I'm an average company. I'm going to do mediocre work at best, semi-par, and, I want to be paid on Friday, like, before I start. Like, would that be your pitch to your client? No, of course not. But how many of you are literally saying that to your people you're hiring? It's wildly, like, no wonder you can't find anyone. The best is when you come out and start making a list of demands. Well, like everyone else, you've got to have 2 years experience. You got to have this. You never once spoke to what you provide to the employee. If they're making statements, they're so vague. And again, we tell stories when we're looking for a defender. You should see our ads. They're like stories. Now, you wouldn't attract, a commander like myself, because I don't want stories. I want your bullet points and just tell me what you got. And like I'm not going to read the whole story. But for a defender, you have to give a storyline. You have to tell them a story about the experience they're going through, where they're currently at, and where their desired state is going to be. If you can't do that in your ad, you are not moving a defender no matter what. And they're the hardest to move. Those are the guys that are at companies for 10 to 15 years. They get passed over for raises. You know, they miss family time. They're the ones that are just never getting credit, where other people that are more persuasive or more outgoing maybe are getting those bonuses and getting those upgrades. And how much of that is happening based on personality types, right? So again, you want to keep your defenders. And the other thing is, when you lose defenders, that's a sign of that your whole structure's in trouble when you start to lose those guys. So again, that's you know, it's I know we got on a tangent, but I'm glad you brought it up.
Preaching to the choir, brother.
Yeah. Love this kind of stuff. I love this kind of stuff. So again, really quick, easy, quick win there. If you want to have your AI, what kind of personality type best suits this role, right? It's going to tell you, hey, it'll be, you know, this profile, and there's a couple of different ones. There's, I mean, you can use the 16 personalities. What's the other one?
Extended disc.
Yep, disc, all of those. And again, like, if you want wins, that's where you start to, you know, really take it to the next level in your recruitment hiring. Don't get caught in the weeds on it. You know, use the prompts, use your AI to your advantage here. And again, don't try to be your own copyright either. I highly, you know, I don't do it. You know, up till AI came out, we had to hire very expensive people to do it. Now, these are the kind of things that are immediately available to any contractor that's on it, right? So
Trevor, to the folks that are hearing this and going, I have that problem, right? Yeah. That's that. What do they do next, right? So, you know, they're feeling, they have the pain. It's real, right? They're losing people. They're losing their quality people. So help them. Where do they start?
So many people just aren't good at this. They don't even know where to start. So understanding and admitting to yourself that either your ego's gotten in the way or you have the problem is step one in any problem. Finding good help, like Jay. I'm a business coach, and this is where I sit there and preach up and down, you know, mission, vision, values, live and breathe it. You know, onboarding, understanding millennials and Zillennials and Z's, like, it's about understanding and learning. If we can't learn what we need to know, we're just never going to know.
Unlearn the stuff that we've been
unlearn.
Unlearning is becoming more valuable to me than learning these days, because it's a lot has to be unlearned in order to move forward.
So yeah, I'm on the, like I said, I'm a Gen Xer. I'm on the, I use AI every day, and statistically, you know, less than 20% in Canada and the United States use AI, and it's less than 9% of businesses. Like this is just such a small, but it's the leading edge. If you want to stay in front, and if you want to, you know, be the leader in your world, I think AI needs to be part of that world in all of the things that you do, especially in hiring and retention.
Right. What I love about this particular topic is here's two major components to it. So any businesses that are out there, I'm going to speak to the ones that have the ability and feel like they could implement these things and have the soft skills to do this. So I'm talking more to the companies that are good at sales and marketing, because these are the ones that I find do the best job with their staff and internal when they realize it. Okay, because they can take those principles. They know at core what makes people and motivates people to take actions. For the other companies out there that are maybe more operations driven, again, they can adapt, they can work, but I recommend, again, you would find a coach that can help you with the soft skills. All right. So again, Trevor is ideal for that. I'll take the other side and be like, hey, if you can manage your soft skills and don't need a high level of coaching, I will implement a very, very significant system in your business that will allow you to automate, to allow you to bring what you do best out more often and with less effort and work. For the other guys, you got to learn these soft skills first. Putting a system like what we have in place absolutely will destroy your opportunities, because you're not only are you failing now, but you're failing at a much higher significant amount. All right. So again, if you can't retain a staff or haven't really thought or planned out any of this stuff, It's going to take more than a course. It's going to take somebody that's going to come in and keep you accountable to the soft stuff, to the stuff that matters, and getting you in the right mindset before you could bring in a system that could increase the amount of people you're going to hire. Again, here's a very, very distinct line, because our business does really, really well with taking companies that have those principles in place already, believe in it, have good culture, know they can manage their staff, but need more and need more systems and efficiency. But if I introduce that to somebody who doesn't have that, not good. It won't work out. So again,
Trevor,
that's the, yeah.
I was going to ask Trevor, can you give us an example? And again, for the folks that are watching and are going to watch later, of the way you've worked with a couple of your clients, because again, we've got the systems and all this like backbone stuff, but you need someone to help you, like to hold your hand, hold your hand with this stuff. Can you give us some examples of how you've worked with folks recently and kind of taken them through this?
Yeah, so I was dealing with a company just as Jay described. It had logisticians and defenders, good systems, good organization, all of that others kind of stuff, but they were having problems hiring and retaining staff. And I brought in a system of using DISC or 16 personalities and coming up and with a process that they could use to teach them the soft skills and fix the people problem. And year over year through COVID, 10% increase in profitability and sales. Like sales went up 10% and profitability went up. And it was a well-established 50-year-old company that just kind of stalled out. Now they have 80% retention. They fire quickly if it's not going to fit. They made a mistake. And I've identified the staff that are the problems, and I said they just don't fit.
Yeah,
they're not in the right job doing the right thing for them. And as soon as these people go, the whole team moves up and goes forward, and the company just has a whole different. Literally walk in, and it's a whole different feeling.
Yep. Right.
And that's just one example. Yesterday, I was talking to, again, a well-established company, and I was talking to them about the soft skills, how to write a value-based job ad and all that other stuff. They ticked off all of the purple boxes. And when I explained to them a value-based, systemized way of hiring, it's almost like they just palm smacked their forehead and went, why didn't we think about it? We have HR, like Jay touched on it. We, sales and marketing, and how come they're not writing the job ads? But yet we have in small companies, it's the bookkeeper,
right?
It's the office manager. It's somebody
they're copying the competitor.
They're copying, they're writing terrible job ads. They're not trained in this kind of thing. And we wonder why we're having these problems. And really marketing should be running the job ads if you have a marketing department. If you don't, you find guys like Jay and I, or, Adrian, we find these people to, help them along and teach them these little pieces that they don't know.
Right. Well, I mean, again, there's never been a better time. Again, in the many years, the 20 years of contracting that I've had, there's never been a better time to really take advantage. Okay. And I mean it because we're getting to the point now, and now all the baby boomers and Gen Xers will hate me, but we're getting to the point now where, and it's okay. It's okay. I get it. Where a lot of these guys are going to be looking at their exit plans and looking at, what their next steps and what next moves are. And with that, again, there's going to be companies that listen and adapt, and there's going to be companies that die. All right. It's up to you now at this point, because a lot of the excuses and the things that were preventing, and I've talked to tons of really stuck, and I feel for them. I really, because I've been there and I understand it, but really stuck baby boomers that are, you can't even get them past the soft skills of knowing, hey, you know what? Like, the reasons you're not profitable is not because, you're not getting enough jobs. It's not because of that. It's like, look at you. Like, are you treating people the way that they should be treated? Because it goes both ways, right? Like, again, if you don't know how to motivate your staff, all right, is that their problem or is that your problem?
Right.
Right. And if you don't invest and you don't learn and you don't unlearn some bad habits. And that's the big thing. And that's where, again, I think Trevor comes in, and he's a lot softer than I am, because I will tell you your problem and I will fix your problem, but I will not hold your hand while we do it. All right. So again, depending on which journey you would like, again, I find I work best with people that have already identified themselves as, having that issue, and again are more looking at now that I realize it, now that I've got it, how do I put it all together and make it work at a high level, right? But I can't have those conversations where an owner is refusing to believe and won't make those changes. If that's the case, then you need to work on yourself. Totally recommend Trevor for that purposes, like changing your own mindset so that you can actually make these changes and see the bigger picture here and really solve your problem. But again, like I said, most conditions and most situations I see, it's not for a lack of knowledge. It's not for a lack of being told. It's for a lack of refusing to change and adapt to what is actually happening, the reality side, right? And again, it's tough to see, and a lot of times, again, it's correctable, but it starts with unlearning those bad habits. It starts with recognizing that, hey, here might be a better way to do this. And just because I learned it this way doesn't mean it's right. It doesn't mean it's working, because if it was, you wouldn't be interested in this topic, right? Like if you just had these amazing people that were, just totally motivated to work for you and no problems, right? You can only improve. So, but I think for a lot of us and that are out there, we're all facing the same challenges, right? Now's the opportunity to take it and really build on it and use it. And remember, we do have AIs and stuff now. So when, Trevor or I leave your building, you're not on your own, right? You can keep up with these things and these processes. So it's a worthy time to invest in it for sure.
So Trevor, how can people find you if they want to get some help?
Absolutely. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, Trevor Bruintjes. Just find my name. Peaks and Valleys Strategic Business Development is my company. www.pvsbd.ca will get you some more of my background, and there's a contact me button there. I'm more than happy to, talk with you at no cost to see where you're at and where you might want to go. And there's no obligation for that first conversation. Let's just start with some conversations, knowing what we don't know, and
right.
let's go from there.
And then when you're done with that, you come see me, and I'll get you systemized. And
step one,
and,
step two.
Perfect. Well, I feel like we got
right.
a lot covered on this chat. Yeah, it's been excellent.
We crammed it into 60 minutes, didn't we?
Yeah, we sure did.
Well, Trevor, thanks for spending some time with us today. We'll need to have you come back and talk some more, because this isn't going to solve everybody's problems today. And thanks everybody for hanging out with us, whether you're here live or you're going to be on the replay. We're here every Friday, 3:00 Eastern, and we will see you next week.
Bye.